AJ Dybantsa is not just the #1 basketball recruit in the class of 2025. He's said by some to be one of the best high school basketball recruits we've seen since LeBron James. And I know that comparison gets thrown around a lot, but this kid can do it all. He can shoot, he can pass, he can throw it down. Unsurprisingly, he had his pick of any school in the country to play for. And yet a few weeks ago, we all found out he's going to BYU. So now the big question on everyone's mind is, how? Well, off first glance, you might think, well, it was because of the money. And you'd be right. AJ is rumored to be getting one of the largest NIL packages we have ever seen for a college athlete. But the money is only part of the story. After all, it's not like every other top program in the country didn't have similar offers. No, the story of how AJ Dybantsa found his way to BYU goes much deeper than that. It's a story about a trailblazing father-son duo and a rising basketball program that finds itself at the crossroads between a meteoric rise to prominence or a sputtering fall back down to earth. So let's start at the beginning. AJ Dybantsa originally hailed from Brockton, Massachusetts, just south of Boston. He grew up a huge Celtics fan and played basketball for his local private school, St. Sebastian. And AJ always had a natural skill for the game, but after a 9-inch growth spurt between his 7th and 8th grade year, it was clear he had potential to be something special. By his freshman year, his father Ace was getting 6-figure offers from prep schools all across the country just to have AJ play there. And his father knew that he needed to be playing better competition in order to level up his skill. So they signed a deal with one of the top prep academies in the country, Prolific Prep, in Napa, California. And even against the national competition, AJ stood out. His first year there, he led the team to a championship and was invited to an NBA Top 100 camp as a sophomore. Going into his junior year, he was already working out with NBA players like Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Poole, and even his childhood hero, Kevin Durant. Going into his final year of high school, again, every prep school in the country was clamoring to sign AJ, and this time for million-dollar NIL packages. But amongst all of the commotion of teams wanting to sign his son, there was one school that stood out that Ace wanted to give a second look. It was an unlikely destination in the middle of the southern Utah desert, led by one ambitious man looking to flip the sport on its head. In April of 2024, Ace and AJ hopped on a flight from California to Hurricane, Utah, to meet with a man by the name of Brent Woodson, a BYU grad and New York businessman who said he had a new opportunity for both AJ and Ace that they wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. Getting in on the ground floor of a new prep school that would rival the likes of IMG Academy in Florida or Prolific Prep in California. It was still under construction, but Brent's vision was to quickly build state-of-the-art facilities and arenas, bring in the brightest coaches and teachers, and lure top prospects of every sport to play for Utah Prep. And best of all, Ace and AJ would be the foundation on which it was built. Now, part of the pitch to get the Dybantsas to sign with Utah Prep was selling them on the potential of the state as a whole. So they toured Zion National Park, they went up and checked out Salt Lake City, and with most of the founders being BYU grads, they of course toured BYU's campus. Well, it just so happened that as this tour of Utah was taking place, BYU basketball was in the middle of righting its ship after head coach Mark Pope had left to replace John Calipari at Kentucky. And the future of the program was kind of a big question mark as most of the starters from the year before were entering the transfer portal. Things really weren't looking great, but their one bright spot was being able to sign Phoenix Suns lead assistant Kevin Young to be their next head coach. And he was ready to hit the ground running, but the only problem was he was in the middle of coaching the first round of the NBA playoffs versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. So time was limited, to say the least. But he got word that AJ and his family would be touring BYU's campus, and he knew he couldn't pass up this opportunity. So immediately after wrapping up a practice in Phoenix, Coach Young hops on a plane to Provo in order to meet with AJ and his family. And once there, Coach Young made it clear that his plan for BYU:
make this place the best place in college basketball to prepare young men to play in the NBA. And I think with my background, I think we're going to be able to get that done. And I really look forward to doing that.
He also just so happened to have a ringing endorsement from AJ's favorite player, Kevin Durant. Couple that with meeting Danny Ainge, former player and GM for the Boston Celtics, AJ's favorite team, safe to say they left quite the impression and opened Ace's eyes to what BYU could offer his son. I believe what I see. I came here, thought it was beautiful. Kevin, he's working. So after the campus visit, Woodson sat down with Ace and AJ and offered him a $600,000 NIL deal, plus part ownership in the school going forward. The idea being that AJ would offer instant legitimacy to a brand new school and help land top talent for years to come. It was going to be Brent and Ace building the next powerhouse prep school together. I like what they are building, that's why I'm here. We are going to shock the world, only me and Brent know. But since that meeting, things didn't go exactly as planned. Construction on some of Utah Prep's facilities came to a halt. Woodson had allegedly fallen behind on some payments, and his original dream of state-of-the-art facilities and multiple elite sports programs slowly faded away, or at least had been put on hold. Eventually though, Woodson was asked to step away from his leadership role at Utah Prep, and with new management coming in, it was decided that the school would just focus on basketball for now. But with so much not going as originally planned, there was definitely concern that Ace would opt out for a more established program somewhere else. But he still saw the potential with the school, even if it wasn't on Woodson's original timeline. He remained a stakeholder and decision maker, and presumably will be even after AJ graduates. If I was unhappy, would AJ still be here? And despite all of that turmoil behind the scenes, once the season actually tipped off, AJ dominated, proving even further that he is the best player every time he steps on a court. Even against perennial powerhouse programs like Oak Hill or Brewster Academy, no matter who they played, AJ shined. And since that visit with Kevin Young back in April, AJ kept narrowing down his list of schools, and with every new list, BYU was rumored to be at the top. With the diverse staff that Coach Young was able to put together and a long list of NBA superstar references, it was clear that BYU landing a potentially generational 5-star talent was not just a dream. It could very well be reality. But as AJ's decision date neared, rumors swirled that schools like Alabama or UNC were making a late push. 247 Sports, who had previously predicted AJ to sign with BYU, had taken down that prediction weeks leading up. I mean, the Cougs were up against Alabama, UNC, Kansas, and really just about every other school in the country. No one would have been surprised if any of those programs found a way to lure AJ away from Provo. And then on December 9th, it was announced that AJ and his father would be announcing his decision live on First Take with Stephen A. Smith.
AJ, big moment. We so appreciate you. So where are you headed?
I'll be coming into Brigham Young University.
BYU.
Yeah.
Cougars.
Go Cougs.
Why BYU?
NBA staff all the way down to the dietitian, strength coach, analytics guy.
BYU.
Excuse me?
Huh? That one surprised me, but there you go with NIL.
Well, they were saying we were going to the biggest bidder. That's not true. Me and my wife didn't want money to affect his decision.
Okay. I'll go there and play for this guy who developed Kevin Durant, but I'd also like $7 million.
It wouldn't surprise me if BYU is in the mix with a lot of guys moving forward.
So BYU signed the next LeBron James. What now? Well, as exciting as it is for BYU to have signed the #1 player in high school, it all of a sudden brings the program to a major crossroads in Kevin Young's second year as a college basketball coach. He and the Cougars are staring down two paths. One that leads to an unprecedented golden age of BYU hoops, similar to Gonzaga's rise back in the mid-90s, and the other that leads to one exciting year followed by a sudden crash back down to earth. Because you can bet that every top recruit in the country is waiting to see how this plays out for AJ next season. Everything will depend on delivering what was promised: an instant star, a #1 overall draft pick, and a winning team. Because nothing about this situation is guaranteed. I mean, this isn't the first time a major recruit has chosen a non-traditional power in college basketball. Take Ben Simmons going to LSU, or Anthony Edwards choosing Georgia, or Jaylen Brown going to Cal. Really, the list could go on. That LSU team didn't make the tournament, that Georgia team went 5-12 in conference play, and that Cal team got bounced in the first round against Hawaii. Those players would go on to be top 3 picks in the NBA draft and have successful NBA careers. Mostly. But the schools they came from would struggle to have any momentum going forward. Now BYU steps into a similar role, but with a chance to read from an entirely different script. For one, most of those 5-star recruits that signed with a random school were either a hometown hero or had some other familiar tie to that school in particular. And as we all know, even though AJ is playing his senior year in Utah, he's probably the furthest thing from a homegrown talent. And before that first visit they took to the campus back in April, Ace barely knew BYU existed, let alone considered having his son play there. No, Ace and AJ are at BYU because they've bought into a system that Kevin Young and his staff have put into place to make BYU the next premier NBA pipeline. They chose BYU because they believe in putting the pro in Provo. And if BYU can deliver by sending Yegor Denim to the NBA as a lottery pick this year and AJ as the #1 pick next year, it will send a message to every recruit in the country that if you're an elite high school athlete looking to maximize your draft stock in a distraction-free basketball monastery for 1 year, you should consider BYU. And the other thing that separates BYU from that Georgia or LSU team is the new age of NIL. I mean, who would have thought that even 3 years ago, the ability to pay athletes would benefit BYU the way it has? And really the most surprising part is not that BYU alums have money. I mean, there's no shortage of successful startups in Utah County run by BYU graduates. No, the surprising part is the resources being used to invest in the athletic department ever since Kevin Young came on board. And I think it just speaks to the confidence that everyone close to the program has in Coach Young to propel this program to heights we've never seen before. And with a talent like AJ, the benefits far outweigh the cost of getting him on board. So over the next 12 to 18 months, I think we will find out whether this truly is a program that threatens to turn the power dynamic of college basketball on its head, or if it's just another school that caught lightning in a bottle for 1 year just to settle back into its own mediocrity. Time will tell. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.